Hey guys, so before we proceed into the video, here's a little update for everyone. So this is a disclaimer for any interruption in the internet or the quality of the video of our speakers and on the host side. So if at all the audio is good, go ahead and leave your phone at the side and feel free to listen to the recorded audio chat. So always remember, it's not all about the quality of the video, but more towards the content of the video. So we really hope that you guys have fun and leave a comment below on what you actually learned, or if you would like to share your experience on this particular topic in the comment section below. So have fun, guys.
If you're okay, if you're ready, is there anything that you're bottling up inside or going through that you wanna let out? Our mind and our mind has its way of dealing with it depending on how severe the problem is. You know, like how they say, whatever it is that the mind can conceive, the body can achieve.
This series is brought to you by the Reset app, an amazing app that equips you to be happy by flexing the positive mindset muscle. So go ahead and download today. Link is in the description below. It's free.
Hi everyone, I'm excited to be here. We are doing this program, series of episodes in conjunction with the World Mental Health Day. We are actually doing at the MINDA Club in a slight twist. We call it, our team is called Being Human. So one of the reasons why we came up with this team is basically, I always say this, as human being, we need to start being human first. One of the biggest reasons is that because of the situation that we're in, we tend to forget that we have this the new brain called neocortex, which is the new brain, which is an amazing faculty of us that helps us to think, to do executive decision, and to come up with solution. But because of the environment that we've been in, we've been forced to, or we have chosen to be acting more from the reptilian and the limbic part of the brain. So rather than being consciously responding to the situation that is being responsible, we have gone into compulsive reaction, which is creating a lot of challenges in our life. If we can see the relationship that we have, the career that we have, the political situation, whatever we call it, it's all the way that we look at it. When you look at it from you are actually responding to the situation, you tend to see the world as a better place. So our goal is to help people to be more responsible rather than being compulsively reactive. So that's the reason why we're having this series of conversation. We also want to make sure the trajectory from now onwards as a human being, we need to have a trajectory towards making this world a better place. Because if we don't change the trajectory, we have seen during this pandemic lockdown, when we stayed put at home, when the industry slowed down, Mother Nature started showing her power by recovering. And we saw rivers changing in 3 months. Fishes were swimming, many situations happened. So we are indebted because we're part of this world. We are from this environment, so we would want to make a difference. So today I'm so excited. I was really excited behind the scene just now, so I'm just trying to be composed as I can. Today we have an amazing, she's a celebrity, but you know what, when I was having the conversation with her, she's such a simple human being. That's the most important thing that I would like to send this message to Lisa Surihani binti Muhammad. I'm sure you all know this lovely lady. Let me read some short biography. Her biography is so long. I'm just going to take some. She was born uh, I'm not going to say when she was born. You all figure it out. She's a Malaysian actress, model, television host, commercial model, starting her entertainment career in 1997 at the age of 11. Very young. Lisa has appeared in numerous feature films and television shows as well as TV commercials. Throughout her career, she won several awards, including Malaysian Film Festival Best Actress. That's a very high accolade. Her notable films include Goodbye Boys, I'm Not Single, Kapau, SAN, Saya Aman Mencintaimu, and Ular. She's married to singer actor Yusri Kiaryu in 2012 and blessed with 2 children. In February 2017, Lisa was appointed as the Goodwill Ambassador of UNICEF Malaysia. Please help me to welcome Lisa Surihani.
Hello,
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for coming to be in our space for this small little work that we're doing with a big person like you. And thank you so much for coming. So I would like to first ask you, how did you come into this industry?
it was actually by chance. At the age of 11, one of my cousins asked me, "Why don't you do ads?" I said ads, and he said, "Yeah, ads. Like advertisements. Why?" And then he said, "Well, you can earn a little bit, earn some money, pocket money, and all that." So at the age of 11, I was thinking that, wow, even at the age of 11, I can earn money. Oh, you know, yeah, that's cool. So I thought that, okay, I'm going to earn money along the way whilst being a student, um, for rainy day or to support, at that time you're thinking that, oh, to pay for university or what. So it became like a personal, um, how do I say, goal somewhat, because as humble our beginnings were, alhamdulillah, quite thankful that we managed to get by. My parents and us, siblings, we were a family of 7.
Wow.
I have 4 brothers, and it was my mother and my late father. So we started off obviously with humble beginnings, but then at the same time we managed. But at that time, you have that also, that how do I say, that motivation to wanna oh, but if you can help the situation, why not? So fast forward, and I went through doing a little bit of acting here and there, advertisements. I did theatre when I was in Form 4. I stopped only during the year when I had to do my SPM. I continued after that. But then the thing is, all along the way, my mom was always with me. School was still priority. Because my mom said, no matter what, studies number one. The side, it's just a side thing.
Yeah.
So we along the way, I think the pluses that I could take from that, the plus points that I could take from that was probably, my mom indirectly training me about time management, focus management as well. Because you don't want to be studying and thinking about the acting gig I just got, or the acting gig I'm currently doing, or whatever. If you're studying for whatever subject, you want to focus on that. So you got to be, I think that's also the whole practice of wanting to be present. It was obviously a struggle to do that, because it's you're growing up, and then you're going through life, and changes of hormones and all that.
Yes.
all that you're going through kind of like phase after phase, day after day, one thing at a time. But I think I managed. By the time I reached the age of 16, because I was an underage student, I entered school early. For my A levels, although my parents could afford it, I told them I want to pay for my A levels. So it was, so anyhow, it was always that studies was number one. Yeah, I sort of like, wow, you've done this for a long time. You've always wanted to do this. To be quite honest with you, I didn't really aspire to be what I am today. I didn't even think that at the age of 11 that I would be an actor when age. I would be a host at this age. I would be doing what I'm doing at this age. I honestly thought I was going to be a lawyer because I did law. After A-levels, I did a 2+1 twinning program. Law. I followed my late father's footsteps. My father was a barrister at law, for example, and I thought that was the route for me as well. But yeah, I mean, so I graduated with a law degree. But that year that I graduated was also the year that my father passed away.
Okay.
Yeah, so that year I needed to sort of like make a decision. I was at crossroads. I had to make a decision whether or not, okay, the plan was for me to intern at his firm with his guidance. Because that was the plan. And meanwhile, at that time, I was also still taking up acting jobs. I was still doing all of that. And then endorsements started to come in, because I grew up doing ads and I never endorsed anything. I was just a model on TV. It was just that. But then when you reach, like for better words, celebrity status or whatever, you start endorsing these brands because there's a weight to the name. I suppose I don't know. I quite don't know. Quite yeah. So money in that sense is how do I say, at that time, very good. I think Allah was very kind to me. I mean, I think He loves all of us, and He helped me a lot along the way. He helped me to be able to help my family, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like He helped me to help my family. So I needed to, at that crossroad, decide what seemed to be the better option with my father no longer around. With this route of going into entertainment and arts, I was thinking short term at the time. Yeah, I wasn't thinking long term. I was thinking that in the short term of plans, I think I would be able to help the family a lot more and faster if I go through this. I'm not saying that the law route was not good for me. I don't mean that at all, because I don't want to send the wrong message as though like, hey, going on a professional route means it's a less appealing option. No, not really. It was something that I had to decide on a monetary survival basis in a short plan, and going professional and all that, apart from good work and you have to climb the ladder, right? So, a while for so I went into entertainment and arts with the mindset that I will do whatever I can while I can until the time when I'm no longer needed in the entertainment and arts industry. Then I'll just fall back onto law.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Bearing in mind that because I graduated with an English degree, that would mean that I still have to take the CLP to be able to practice. The amazing thing about a law degree is about how wide it is somewhat. You can do anything and everything with that degree. I don't know. In my humble opinion, because like you go into whatever industry or whatever company, being in an LA is also okay. If you know what I mean, you don't really have to represent. You just be in the legal department.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's corporate law and all that.
I have different avenues to look into.
Wow.
So I that was the sort of like the long-term backup plan-ish,
Yes. Yeah. I have two more. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. But I mean, we are here today.
Yeah.
And you kind of read out my bio just now, and so I'm now 34. So it's been how many years now? 23 years, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
If this is what's written for me, I guess, like I'm still at that stage where I'm doing whatever I can while I can.
Hmm. Hmm. Amazing. It's amazing. I have two questions for you. Number one is you started off at a very young age, 11. So you also mentioned that mom has always been with you, and that itself is a strength in an environment for you. At the same time, at a very young age, you're actually being there's a lot of what you call attention being given. You're also into advertisements. During that time, I don't think so. There was Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. So there's no one who's commenting or anything. But then again, you're among your friends. Friends saw you in a different way because you're out in TV.
Face to
How
face.
were you, yeah, face to face, and how were you able to cope up? Because deep inside, your hormones were playing tricks on you,
Oh yeah.
right? Because you're 11, 12, neuroscientists have said it takes around 12 to 13 years for the brain to grow from 0 to 90%. So the next 10%, which will take another 12 to 13 years, it's where your prefrontal cortex, where you make your executive decision, all that will take place. But you were in a phase where in the 90%. Thank God, mom was around maybe to make some executive decisions, right? But how did you cope up with, with the chemical imbalance? Because I'm sure you're also going through, you're maturing now, your hormones are playing trick, there's fame coming to you. Because the reason why I want to ask you this, because there might be some young people who are actually looking at this. The youngsters who are seeing this now, they have access to become popular immediately for even the wrong things, right?
Right.
Yeah. So how did you cope up?
Well, I think for me, primarily when I started this, uh, it was never about like, oh, when I want to do this is because I want to be a star. When I do this is because I want to be an actress like in Hollywood or whatever. It was never about popularity from the very beginning. In fact, until now, it was about growth. It was about survival. It was about helping the family. It was about helping myself. It was about earning. It was about learning. So from the very beginning until now, it's that. And it was only a lot. Going about how is it in school, for example, because we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Facebook or any of those kind of social media apps. We were still dial, like we were still like,
Yeah.
even getting connected to the internet had this annoying sound, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
uh, whenever I did a job or whenever I did an advertisement or whenever it came out on TV or whatever, when I do it because it's work. And then when
Mhm.
it's done, when it comes out on TV, it's not that when I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm out on TV. It was never like that. It was just sort of like, oh, it was one of those things I did, because primarily I'm a student. Primarily I'm just that normal girl next door going to school just like anybody else.
Oh.
That was just a side thing for me. It was not um it was not something that it was sort of like, oh, hey, I'm out there to be famous or whatever. It was never like
Mm.
in my head already, so there were certain jobs, for example, that were very fun, very silly, certain advertisements that you have to do your hair a certain way, you have to make up a certain way, you have to wear all kinds of clothes that look very comical or whatever.
Mm.
And of course you go to school and you go like, oh, like, oh, dad, or whatever whispers or people laughing at you right straight to the face. um, and I just at that time I was just sort of like, oh, whatever, because at that, like my intention was not to it was never about like, I'm doing it for the fame. I was
Mm. Mm.
because I wanted to earn money. I wanted to
And to help the family.
I wanted to save the money in the bank account.
Mm.
In my
Mm.
that's my frame of mind.
Mm.
That's all
Wow.
it was. So I just like, so if people were laughing at me, I was like, yeah, but the thing is, when I did it, I earned money. It's in the bank account. Like, macam, that was my thought.
Wow.
So
I got something, yeah, exciting. Something very important that you said. You were there basically looking at how you can generate income for your saving to help the family rather than going for the fame, right? This is something, Lisa, that we are seeing prevalent in successful people. There's a lot of goal setting programs which are going up there. People are talking about goals and goals, how to set goals. But goal is something which is far ahead in the future that you really don't know whether it's going to happen or not. But what I hear from you is that you fell in love with the process, what you were doing. You were excited about what you were doing without looking at the fame. The fame came as a consequence of what you were doing,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
it's exactly that. Like later on, I started to, learn that
Mm.
I was getting to be more noticed, getting to be more known, and that in itself, I think, was sort of like I was observing. I was
Mhm.
observing it. I was learning
Mm.
about it. There were moments that I think that it was kind of overwhelming in a way
Mhm. Mhm.
because there's a large group of people that you don't know from Adams that know you,
Mm. Mm.
or
Mhm.
rather know
Mhm.
the idea of
Mhm.
you,
Mhm.
that recognize, you know.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, I think that was sort of like it was awkward somewhat.
Yeah.
Um, but you see, the thing is, I think because from the get go, from the very beginning point, like
Mhm.
it was, like I think it would have been different if, say, my frame of mind was sort of like I'm doing this to be famous, and then
Mhm.
if someone recognized me, and I'm like, right, it's working now, and people now recognize.
Mm.
But then because from the very beginning, it was never the case. So when all that was slowly happening and gaining its momentum,
Yeah.
it felt kind of weird.
Mm. Mm.
Then at the same time, I think I was sort of like, okay, maybe this is part of it. I mean,
Mm.
like as a growing girl or growing girl becoming a woman,
Mhm.
I thought, I guess this is part of it. I guess this is what it takes. You
Yeah.
know, in order for me to get more jobs, in order for me to earn and learn, it requires some sort of consequence, as you mentioned earlier, which
Mhm.
is known.
Yeah.
Right? So I was just going through it. Um, I think whilst I think mom being with me all the time was a good thing,
Mhm.
uh, to sort of to keep me in check. Because being a growing girl and all that, and then you meet a lot of people, and you tend to slip when you don't realize it. Like
Yep.
you being sociable and meeting new people, and you want to be liked and all
Yep.
that.
Yep.
um I think having mom around was a good thing to keep me
Yep.
in check about what values are, what my um uh, uh is about. I think with her around, it helped me about setting what my goals and priorities were,
Yep.
in good care of myself.
Yep.
So yeah, so I think
Yeah.
when it
That's
comes to today, however, like I I I understand what you mean about how this may affect a child growing up,
mm,
um, being a part of entertainment and arts,
mhm.
especially when the consequence of it, like
Yeah.
game,
Yep.
comes into play very early on at the age.
Mm.
It concerns me, yes, but because um, you want the child to grow up with a good childhood,
Mm.
with a happy childhood. If they're able to, like how we were talking about with Kavita earlier,
Mhm.
if we're able to sort of like guide the child along the way, to be able to, whilst going through this growth, be
Mm.
sort of like see themselves from outside the situation looking in as well,
Mhm.
the child will be okay.
Wow.
I've had conversations before with child stars or child actors and all that, where they get overwhelmed and bombarded
Mm-hmm.
by just they go to school, but because
Mm-hmm.
their waktu rehat is not waktu rehat. It's filled with kids going up to them and wanting to take pictures, all that jazz. You see, it's not
Yeah.
it's not a normal setting
Yeah.
for children growing up. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You
Yeah.
want to mingle with your friends. You're thinking like, hey, what do you buy just now? So waktu rehat, all that jazz. You wanna. It's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being way too known, being way
Yeah. Yeah.
that one sometimes can.
That is a big challenge, right? It's for me, I met an elderly person long time ago when the kids were growing up who said, our kids are not our kids. They are basically, we are here to facilitate them. And I understood what he said. Unfortunately, he didn't use what he preached. Thank God I used it. So from the beginning till now, I know I don't own my kids. They are basically, I'm just facilitating to where they want to go because they are born with greatness anyway. We just need to see and get them to where they want to go. All three of them are really happy in what they're doing, in whatever programs that they're doing, any business they are starting. So I like what you said. I think your mom played a very important role in that, to give you enough space for you to move around, bump yourself here and there for a while, get bruised, but come back. There's a place. This comes back to the next question I want to ask. I'm full of questions. I'm so sorry because I'm very. I like to learn. That's my nature because I believe there's a lot to learn. There are a lot of good people out there that I want to tap into and learn as much. So when it comes to this, mom is an environment, right? Did you have any other people as your fortress of support when you wanted to talk? Because I believe it's important for you to surround yourself with one, two, three, four people who are basically willing to be with you as a fortress to support your growth and able to express yourself. So my question is, did you have them, and were you able to express to them freely?
That's actually a really good question. I think mom was also that for me. But like you were also asking, like, but apart from mom, like, was there anybody else? Like maybe somebody from the industry who was more more learned, more experienced, and sort of like could give like a very mentor like advice. I think along the way, off and on, like I would have deep conversations just like the one I'm having with you now with random people growing up. Like we happen to sort of like, vibe and jive, doing a particular job, and in between takes or in between scenes or whatever, and then we have our conversations, and then I take from that. I um I share.
Can I ask you one question there?
Yes.
You said you spoke to some random people, and also, is it one of the reasons basically when you were talking to them, you felt that you were not being judged?
Maybe. But then the thing is, right? Like growing up, being judged wasn't something that bothered me very much. Because why? Because that the being judged part came a lot later. I'm still that very young girl who's like, hey, I don't know stuff, okay? If I don't know stuff, I'm gonna ask. My inquisitiveness is very, very high. So like you, like like I share that same approach where until the day I die, I will always want to learn. Right? That's what you believe too, right, Siva? And
Yep.
I believe that too. Like I'm like, from the very beginning, since the age of 11, I want to learn. I want to earn. I just want to learn and earn for survival. That kind of thing. So having conversations with this different random people along the way, be it could have been an older actor or maybe a director, or maybe somebody of my age but we kind of same the share or whatever. And then I learned along the way. Of course, after years and years of experience, comes a time that you feel that, like, hey, like you feel somewhat, it's been years and years of experience now. There's some sense of feeling that, like I think I have a fair share of knowledge here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start setting expectations on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll try to put that into perspective. For example, after years and years and years and years of acting and all that, and then I acted in this movie, and I felt that I gave my all. Suddenly, like, apart from just, doing it for the money, just doing it, because it's just another job, it's just another job. After a while, passion sets in. I start
Wow.
really enjoy doing it now. I start loving the process in a different level compared to before.
Mm-hmm.
You start setting like an expectation on yourself already, because
Mm-hmm.
you all and all that, and then you want the recognition from people. You want it. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like, macam, I want people to feel that I did damn well for this particular project because I gave my all for this.
Mm-hmm.
That was I think a new type of growth that I went through.
Did it happen recently or some time back?
A few years back, yeah, it
Few
happened.
years back.
So that was,
Is that a craving for I can do more? I can break my benchmark now. I can set a new high. Is that so?
I think it was a craving of wanting to be acknowledged for the hard work that you did.
Wow.
Uh,
This is an interesting conversation we're going to have on this. I'm going to follow on this, if you may. You see, Lisa, so this is, I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just feeling it. It could be a dopamine moment, right? I'm craving for the next, right? I'm craving for the next. When you get that, hey, you did an amazing job. You
yeah.
feel good. You're going to push, right? Now, why I want to follow on to this is this. There's a lot of cases of celebrities being affected. There's a lot of cases of celebrities taking their own life. Some of the famous one is Robin Williams. There's Anthony Bourdain. And recently in India, there's a big ruckus taking place on this guy Sushant Singh and all that. I wouldn't want to go into what, but currently it is still under suicide. And this is basically, these are people where they couldn't. I don't know what happened. Something happened in them because some chemical imbalance that took place for them to have they have this boldness in them to take their own life. And it's not easy because if we just close our nose, want to hold our breath itself, we can't. Meaning we can't kill ourselves just like that because the life in us kicks us up, right? But they actually committed suicide. So in an industry where there is a lot of recognition, there's a lot of attention, like what you said, I've given it all. I'm going to the next level. There's some craving. See, you are pretty much, I see, you're very grounded, right? Not many people are as grounded as you. I would presume. I don't know. I'm not from that industry, right? I met one or two people, right? Now, what do you think is happening out there? Now, having this kind of craving, if we just give in to this craving, where is it going to go? Because one day this spotlight, limelight would stop, right? And there's no one looking, no one giving another gig, no one is telling you fantastic. What would happen? This is what is happening out there, and it's fact, it is going to happen, right? Yeah, go ahead.
You see, with cases like the names that you mentioned earlier, I think what's important would be also for us to understand from head to tail, but it's a bit
Yeah,
different, asking from the actual source, like, because we, like they've already taken their lives.
yeah,
The spectrum is so wide as to where and as to mental health, mental wellness is concerned. You know, like you were mentioning about chemical imbalances and all that,
Yeah.
and you know, it's tricky. It's tricky to talk about cases that have uh, ended unfortunately this way. You know, it pretty much it's fatal.
Yeah.
We know what I can see clearly there is that are they suffering silently? Are they? Because like, or are their families aware? What were the actions taken to address it, to acknowledge it? Was there a management program, or was there like sort of like a when I say management program, it could even involve pain management program, because of how wide the spectrum is. There are people who do suffer in a way that it incurs some sort of pain in their head, that they don't like the pain, and they start wanting to address the pain elsewhere onto their body. Not, you know, so this is where people start misunderstanding and saying that, oh, it's only attention craving and all. So it's important to know exactly what it is. But is because it is not discussed enough in a widespread scale. That's why we're sort of like, you know, wondering like, what is, how come, why, you know, there was a case, I think, was it? Oh,
Was that?
sorry, Kate Spade, the from the brand, the designer.
Okay.
Yeah, so she also life. The husband was very distraught, very upset about it. You know, they have, I believe, a child together, or was it two? You know, it made me realize how like the family was aware that she was going through something, and something about it to combat it, but in the end she also in the end committed suicide as well.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know, like why does this happen is, I think maybe maybe um maybe we're all at large, maybe by and large, still trying to figure it out, because of how widespread it is, and how cabang it is. But you can relate it back to the industry, whether or not it has anything to do with you know, the expectations that we set on ourselves. Does it trigger anxiety? Does it trigger all that? To a certain degree, I think in Malaysia, so far we've not heard of cases of our, you know, local stars and celebrities, God forbid, going up to that point. But we do hear of cases of friends alike who kind of go through anxiety, certain kind of mental health issue or mental wellness issue. We do hear of that a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then for you know, up to suicide cases, so far no, thankfully.
Yeah.
But you know, I think but then conversations or dialogues like this are important for us to. I think it's important for us to sort of like talk about it more, so that they understand how just as important mental wellness is to physical wellness. You know, even physical wellness has an attachment to mental wellness. For example, like certain ailments that we suffer on the physical aspect can be aggravated because of the stress.
Yes.
In fact, I had a conversation with my doctor friend, and she could easily vouch and could easily say that I would say stress is also a sickness.
Mm.
I could also say that too. So,
Yeah.
whether or not it is prevalent
Mm-hmm.
in our local industry, not yet, but I do see a rise in people who are being more vocal
Mm-hmm.
about their mental wellness issue. Only thing that is a problem is the understanding of the scope and spectrum of things, because it's just
Yeah.
way. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi. I saw my girl on the side. Sorry.
You can say hello.
You want to put on makeup? She wants to put on
So
makeup.
cute. That's nice. And she's asking you.
It's actually just informing me.
I like what you just said.
This is the
I always say, yeah, go ahead.
mirror because I want to put on my makeup. And I was like, okay.
It was not an opinion moment, it is an information moment. Lovely. Lisa, there's something exciting you just brought up, and I'm happy that it came out that way when I asked you that question, and I feel that is the right thing for you to say. I'll tell you what, we cannot judge anyone, whether it's a tension or is it because of whatever pain they were going through. It could be any kind of lack in their life. We can only know if they're able to express themselves out, talk to people, have conversation. And this is something that I strongly believe, that if we are able to express ourselves out without being judged, and if there is a safe space for people to actually express themselves out, there's a lot of things can be done to help people who are actually going through any kind of mental challenges. It could be illnesses, it could be stress, it could be anything. If they're having some chemical imbalance, they have to go and see a doctor, because that's the most important thing. Like, we're having this conversation based on what we know, right? So I strongly believe, yes, environment plays an important role. I hope the Malaysian industry, in Malaysia, opens up for more people having more conversation with a close group of people. Could be a professional sitting there and having. And I'm so happy that no one has taken their life in Malaysia. Pray to God that nobody will. That's what we want, and to stay grounded. Now, with all these things happening, we know that we are responsible, right? We are totally responsible to whatever that's happening in our life. Okay, now I'm going to take you to the current thing that's happening now, which is lockdowns, MCOs and all that. It's a place where we are not, we are actually new to this. We are social creatures, social butterflies, flying around saying hi, hugging, whatever we do, have coffee. Now it's like, don't know, should shake hand or to do this or to do this, or but I don't know what to do now. People are all confused. Wearing face masks now, we have to start smiling through our eyes rather than our lips. So a lot of things happening. How did you cope up, Lisa, during the situation? It's a new norm, uncertainty. Film industry was affected, I know, because the licenses were not given. I was watching in news and all that. So how did you cope up during this time?
When MCO first started, that was when we were all said jangan keluar rumah. Like we were told to stay indoors.
Not jangan pandang belakang. Sorry, go ahead.
So when that first started, it was interesting because I think the way I handle information or the way I process information is different from the way my husband does. So for my kids, I have two children. My daughter just turned 5. Just turned 5. And
Nice.
it's now 3. So they're a lot, smaller. And then it was just a matter of time for us to explain. When the question came about, why can't we go out? Why can't we go to the playground? Why can't we go to the play area? It was for us to explain that we can't because there's a virus out there and we have to protect ourselves from being sick. But how does mommy handle it? How does daddy handle it, right?
Mm.
In the beginning, to be honest with you, I felt that sense of anxiety building up. Why? Because I was freaked out about the coronavirus. I was very freaked out because I wasn't sure about, at that time there was a lot of things being shared, be it on traditional media and also the internet, about how easily contagious it is. Some say it's actually even airborne and all that. Those
Mhm.
that were, that the whole battle of what it was trustworthy information and what was fake news as well.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, at home itself, my husband would be watching the news from day to night
Mm.
because he needed to understand how things were going on outside of Malaysia. So he was watching, be it American or English or European news or even ASEAN, Pacific or whatever.
Yeah.
In different local context punya news on how they
Yeah.
were, because it's a global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So I was also in a way processing this information because I would be in the same room with him watching it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then when you go on your phone, same things are all happening. People are sharing information. People are be it on your timeline or people are sharing it on WhatsApp, and all that. So after a while, I felt that like this
Mm.
uncertainty, because we were at that point of time at the beginning of the MCO, we weren't sure how long this MCO was going to be.
Yep.
We weren't sure about, at that time we were thinking a lot about what was going to happen or what's
Mm.
we were thinking so much about the future,
Mhm.
whilst going through the present we're thinking so
Yes.
much about the future.
Mm. Mm.
And so gray, it's so uncertain.
Mm.
This particular case, right? Like
Mm.
the future is uncertain anyway. But the thing
Yeah.
is, but the thing is, like, of course, with a pandemic-like issue,
Mhm.
gosh, like this is quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
So how did I handle it? Was I decided to detach myself from it.
Mhm.
I you see, I'm not saying what my husband did was wrong.
Mhm.
With all due respect, he is able to process information that way.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
able to sort of like look at it objectively
Yeah.
and sort of like, oh, all right, this is how it's going on there, this is how it's going on there, this is how it's going on there. you
Yeah.
know he's able to take it. For me, however, I obviously, I'm a bit more like, oh no, oh gosh, oh this is or whatever.
Mm.
So the way I process information is different, the way I digest it is it also different.
Mm.
So I decided to detach myself from it. What
Yeah.
I did was um, I kind of took myself away from the TV room,
Mhm.
where the news is going on about it,
Uh-huh.
and uh, I kind of went on to a more spiritual route.
Okay.
I started reading the Quran more. I was reading every day.
Mm.
Uh, I kind of and then went on to classes, online classes,
Mhm.
but it had nothing to do with like what the pandemic is and the Quran,
Wow.
whatever. It was just
Mhm.
me learning about the Quran and learning
Mm.
the the teachings of our messenger and all that. So I
Mhm.
do that to kind of um, I think that was coming. I think in a way that
Wow.
was what I did for the pandemic, during the MCO,
Wow.
and that was when I started realizing that, gosh, here I am thinking so much about what will be, what will
Mm.
be. what will, because it is what's going to happen in the future. But the being more present with just digesting information that was good for myself, digesting information that was good for my heart, good for my mind, you know, that was helpful for me to sort of like be more present. Going to the point where I look around me and I say, thank God, Alhamdulillah, I have a roof above my head. And I went even down to the basics of like, you know, even if I don't have all these things, the very mere fact that I am breathing, I'm thankful for that. So you start being more present, and even the littlest of blessings you count into account.
Wow.
So that helped me every day, you know. And then I, you know, just little things like I suddenly, you know, my girls walk passes by to take her toy. I'm like, I have, and that was good. That was good exercise for me. It was good. It was good physical exercise for me. It was good mental exercise for me to actually really, really appreciate, to really, really practice gratitude, you know. So I detached myself from things that would make me forget that. So that's how I handled the MCO.
This is awesome, Lisa. This is the best time for all of us to go within, right? To assess ourselves. You know, it's exciting what you said. We are very much in the future to know what will be, what will kind of thing, where we forgot to live in the moment, right? So, you know, one of the things that I've heard from psychologists talking, thinking too much in the past, why this thing happened to me and all that leads up to depression. Thinking too much on how the future is going to be, how it's going to pan out, is going to create anxiety. And both of it is not in the now. So in the now, it's what is real and you're enjoying it. I personally went through a lot of deep soul searching. I did a lot of meditation, yoga. It was a massive reset. A lot of experiences that came, you know, when you're closing the eyes. I realized that I'm happier inside, and whatever that happens outside, it doesn't really matter actually. And
It's we're all it also helps when, you know, when you put the faith about what will be, you know, because, you know, like we were talking about, you know, the practice of being present, right?
yeah,
And, you know, this is really humbling in the sense where when you put faith, strong faith about the the whole what will be,
yeah,
you know, and then you kind of resign to the fact that, like, oh, you know, not everything is in our control,
yeah,
you know. uh, the Especially when, you know, like with the pandemic situation, that's really, in a way, like you said, you know, like the laws of nature is actually taking place.
yeah,
Not exactly, you know, it could be a result of an accumulation of what was done by mankind, you know, who knows,
yeah,
you know, go into
yeah,
that, you know. But then at the same time, like, you know, like now that we are at this present moment about what will be and all that, right, is sometimes, you know, like you, when you put that faith that, you know, like then you start practicing that. Okay, put that faith and that belief, and, you know, like how they say, whatever it is that the mind can conceive, the body can achieve. You
yeah.
believe that, you know, like things will be okay. It will,
Absolutely,
you know, like, and,
absolutely.
you know, and then you just leave it to faith. You leave it to God. You know, that I think that that was helpful, I think, also for me. Meanwhile was that, you know, practice of being present. I know
Fantastic.
I noticed that, you know, like when I'm, you know, a lot of the cases that we've been hearing about, a lot of the families, you know, going through very, very difficult situations because currently they're going through that alamak, like how do we survive the next month? How? The next month how? The next month how? I'm not saying that it is not a problem to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that in whatever it is that we go through, I do believe that it is important to acknowledge the problem.
Yeah.
Naturally, I think I don't study psychology. I actually don't, but I somehow believe that there is something in our system, our body system, that activates whenever a problem arises, which is, I call it the survival button, where the button will tell you like, hey, this is a problem. It's either you decide to complain about it in your head, which is a natural thing, yeah, because we're human,
Yeah.
or you start thinking like, but how do I solve it? That one will naturally kick in.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I think, meanwhile, I think back to the conversation that we had. Sorry, I was actually going into adversity, all that. But
We are going in.
I
We
think
can continue. We are going there. Let's talk about that.
okay.
How do you handle it? Because you're talking about mindfulness, breathing, prayers, and you yourself have ups and downs. I have my ups and downs. Every human being that I saw, they have their ups and downs. When we are up, we're excited. When they are down, it's when everything breaks loose. So how do you handle the adversity, Lisa? Your darkest time, right? When was it? Without going to the details of it, the feeling, and how did you come out of it?
When I was going through it, a few years ago, there was that a really difficult situation that I was in, and when your stress gets at an all-time high, for me at that time, this was a few years ago, I noticed that I was desperate to find a solution for it. That's why I mentioned to you earlier just now that I believe that in our body, or in our brains, or in our system, that when we go through an issue or when we go through a problem, we're first going through this process where we are digesting that we have that problem. We're like, oh, we have this problem. I have this problem. I have this situation I'm going through. Difficult. And then suddenly there's this different phase that I'm going through, which is I need to get out of this problem. How do I get out of this problem? For me, I think when that kicks in, it is still the stress hormone released because the problem is not settled yet. To be honest with you, I wish I could tell you that it is a mind over matter. But depending on the severity of the problem, okay, our mind and our mind has its way of dealing with it depending on how severe the problem is.
Yeah.
So I think like if a particular difficult situation is not that difficult, I think we would be able to combat it better and faster.
Yep.
But when it's something where it's like that might take months long to settle or something like that, meanwhile, in between is what's important in dealing with it.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that you're still going through the situation.
Yeah.
So based on my experience, it was very easy for everybody else around me to say, "Alah, don't worry lah, it gets better." They would tell me that.
Yes.
you know. And then I'm like, yeah, but I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel at the moment
Mm,
because
mm,
I'm still going through that situation. You
mm,
know, the I think um, what I should have done when I was going through the situation was when I had to talk about it, because we need outlets, right? We
yep.
need, whenever we're going through the situation, and sometimes it all just comes out, and then you're
Yep.
maybe say a close friend or maybe a friend or two.
Yeah.
It's also close, and also sometimes you're like telling the situation, they're telling the problem. So and then if somebody says like some ala, you know, it can't get any worse than that. It can't, you know,
Yep.
don't worry lah, you know, or whatever. I think what I should have done at that time, if somebody said that to me, would be that um, actually, what I need you to do is not to provide solutions. It's not necessarily to provide solutions for me, because you know, maybe that's what you think I need you to do, but I think it's just for you to hear me out, because the person hearing always thinks that macam they need they need to provide the solution, but the
Yep.
person but it's not necessarily the case for every problem, you know. Some problems, yes, like you can have a friend who goes like, hey, you know what, I went through something similar, I've got you know, like I can share with you that this is how it helped me, maybe it can help you. Not every scenario works like that.
Yep.
There are scenarios where like they are like, oh, okay, oh, sorry lah, but it can't get any worse lah, you know. Then they start what's the word, dismissing.
Dismissing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When that happened to me,
Mm, mm,
when they started dismissing, when I was pouring out, then I should have said, I don't need you to give me the solutions. I know, I understand. This
mm,
is a unprecedented situation. I just
mhm. Wow.
I should have said that. I
Wow.
think. Yeah.
That's amazing. I like what you said, Lisa. When someone is going through some kind of adversity in them, when they're pouring out, as I mentioned earlier, there should be just a safe environment for the person to express. They're not asking for solution. It's just letting that energy out. We have this app that we created called the Reset app. You can't comment in it. I've seen many users who are having difficulties when they start typing it, from a frowning face, it'll turn into a smiling face, because they're channeling the energy when they're typing into the next device that it goes to, and then they're letting go, and no one can comment on it. It just goes. It just goes, and people can just support and all that. I saw that, because I totally agree with you. There should be one of the things that we use in our family for the past 12 years is a concept called WIFL, what I feel like expressing. When there's some issues happening in our house, when it's calm and collected, you know, all are okay, we'll say, okay, let's have a refill session, and we'll start the session by telling what I feel like expressing, and it just goes on and on and on and on until it the person says that's what I feel like expressing, and no one has to judge. And we had our moments where some of the refill session was just tears, because tears is one way of letting go, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it's just an expression, right? Like, just like laughter, just like playing games and all that. So we don't even touch the person when they're crying, because the moment when we touch, it snaps them out of it. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. So I think that is something, you said, you hit a nail there. We need more spaces where we are able to express ourselves, right? Just without being judged. I'm not asking. Actually, me being a coach, sometimes when I sit with my clients, it's funny. When they sit down with me, they'll come up with some challenge. They'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and we just listen and listen and listen, and then they'll give the solution also. And they're like, okay, that's fantastic. Let's just go and get it done, because they know the solution, but they just need to let it out because their mind is in a reptilian mode, right? It's stressed up. They can't think straight. So while they're talking it out, the signal is being pushed to neocortex, the brain where we are all human beings, where other animals don't have the structure of our neocortex, right? And we're able to come up with solutions, and it takes time, and
Yes.
we need to allow people. We are not in a race here, right? So yeah, I like what you said. Yeah, go ahead.
About that situation that happened to me, because of the fact that I had certain incidences where I had dismissive responses, like, where with people going like, yeah, but once you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. I understand, they're all positive affirmations. I get it, but you see, the thing is, it depends on the severity of the situation. Where sometimes what they need, what people need, is sometimes just that outlet. They just need to, they just either need to listen, to just hear out, because sometimes the solution is taking its place, but the outlet has not finished yet. Like with
Yeah.
the expression, expressing and all that, right? So bless them. I've got lovely girlfriends. I've known them from we stay from Pampers to granny panties. That's what we call it ourselves. Like we've known each other for a very long time. And they noticed that I was starting to be recluse.
Mm-hmm.
I started to not really want to social so much, like with them. I didn't want to really meet up because, like, or whenever I did, I was zoned out, like just sort of
Yeah.
like, just because I'm just going through an issue, and I was neither here nor there with conversations that they were having. Um, although I was having a conversation with them, they knew that at the back of my mind there was something going on, that kind of thing. So thankfully, they were very observant, and
Mm-hmm.
one day they intervened. They
Mm-hmm.
We had a meetup, and then they said that, like, okay, we've all had our tummies settled. We've had our dinner. We dah makan, all that. Let's take a moment of silence. Lisa, do you have anything to share with us?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what? Share what? They were like, you know, if you're okay, if you're ready, is there anything that you're bottling up inside or going through that you want to let out, And I was sort of like, oh, why? Like I was sort of like, even I was sort of not even prepared in a way for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that they came from a good place because they were
Mm-hmm.
highly concerned about uh, whether I was okay,
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, it's okay, guys. Because I had so many dismissive response before, I said, "Nah,
Mm-hmm.
guys, I don't want to bombard you, with this situation or whatever." They said, hey, girl, they said, we may not be able to provide solutions for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're not geniuses. We're not professors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need to let it out, we're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Vent. If you just need to vent out, we're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Nice.
that was nice, and then I was sort of, okay, it's a long story though, we've got all night, they said. And then I started sharing, and then it was, at the end of it, it was not them sort of like, they were a few questions along the way, like, oh, but if you did this, would that help? If you did this, which is good, because
Yeah.
maybe I would have not figured it out, or whatever. But at the end of it, they were like, gosh,
Wow.
I'm so sorry that you're going through this. This is awful. This is bad. This is
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when we acknowledge um, the problem that we're going through, which is something that we have to anyway, like whenever people go through adversity, it's acknowledging that you're going through that. And then naturally our body will activate and say, hey, what do I do to get out of this adversity?
Mm.
there's that will kick in. It's either you figure it out or you don't. Some may help you in providing solutions, some may not. That's why they go down a downward spiral when they are unable to figure out a solution. But you see, naturally the body would do that. I think the mind would do that in trying to figure out what the solution is. But it's understanding that while they're going through this or trying to figure out what the solution is, or even if they found a solution and going through that, the stress is still there. I think based on my past experience of that very difficult predicament that I went through, I think it is really important because there's not one type of solution, right? I think it's important to have your outlets. That's one. Number, I think on our own, we have to practice certain things like your deep breathing. We have to practice spirituality as well, where we a little bit more centered and grounded and putting faith about how certain things are not in our control, sort of like believing that this can be solved, this will come to an end, this problem will come to an end. Number 3, you need blood circulation. Blood circulation. So that means, like little exercises are important. Beat whatever works for you, like even if it's like, high intensity, low intensity, whatever. All that is actually good to help your endorphins to activate a lot more.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing. Spirituality, breathing, support group, and exercise. It's awesome. Those who are listening to this, they'll definitely take, this is a buffet spread, right? They can take anything. Now, my next question is this, before we go to your superpower on how you reset yourself is, let's go back to some fun facts on you've played some amazing roles and all that. Some of it are horror roles, right? Scary movies and all that. So how do you do? Is there a situation where I don't know? When you are acting, you're in a character, you're in a role. You have to embrace it, because I've seen I'm sure as an actress, you take on that role, you practice, and then you act it out. You give yourself 100%. And when you come back home, how do you shed that role away, or do you bring that role, or does it play sometimes with you? How do you handle that separation, Lisa?
Okay, so I think it's important for those who aspire to be actors. When you're acting, you act between action and cut. You are allowed to internalize, like obviously there are acting workshops where also, so you have like, oh, this is the name of your character. And then you've got your characterization. What are the colors? What are the colors of the character? You go through the workshop by your own to internalize. You create the backstory of your character to make it feel more substantial and more fulfilling, to really mendalami watak, is it?
Mendalami,
yeah. And the thing is, like, the interesting thing about acting, I think, is it is important that we practice that whole between action and cut is when you are off that role. But when you are acting that particular character for good, maybe say 45 days or so, human beings being a creature of habit, eventually you start, like if say there are certain traits that you have for that character, certain habits that you created for that character, because you want to sort of like, it's how you colorize the character, for example. It becomes part of you eventually. There was a that I went through where I acted in this movie. It was a psycho thriller. And the acting coach that I had, Fazanawi, she said to me, remember, you are Lena. Lena is the name of the character. You're between action and cut. Remember, when it's cut, you're back to Lisa Surihani, sometimes it's not just the character that plays a role. It's the environment that you're in that plays a role. The set, the way, and all that, because it's a psycho thriller. It's a lot more, dark and very mundane, very very melancholy, very down or whatever. Sometimes all that plays a role in the way they shape you for your character. So for a good maybe say few weeks when I was acting the role, it was okay for me. After cut, that's it. I'm on the way back home. Nothing. I was also just married at that point. Just got married at that point. I just went back home just to shower, just to rest and all that. And tidur. It was later on that I realized, because it was days into that role that I started feeling even down and affected even after cut.
Wow.
So I knew that was happening. I had to tell myself that, hey, this is not me exercising that professionalism as an actor. I said to my husband, I said, I need to see the kids. At that point, we didn't have kids. They were my nieces and nephews. I said, I need to see the kids. I need good vibes. I need to balance this, because it's every day really dark, sad. Every day acting this role where I'm tortured, suffered, and all that, and see in my head all that jazz, blah 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 blah. So I needed to balance that, sort of like tell myself that hey, it's just a role and all that. Just detach,
Wow.
But after cut, detach. So I told him, I said, I need to see the kids. He said, because it's becoming dark, it's but this is like after a good 40 days.
Yep.
Yeah. So
It takes around 66 days to form a real good habit. If you continuously doing 21 days to 66 days, and you're getting into
this is every day of more than easily 18 hours of production time a day.
Oh.
So, like you're just going back to Monday and sleep,
Yeah.
So, in the first couple of weeks, it was fine. It was sort of like, yeah, whatever. It was just a routine. But the routine became habit eventually, right?
Yeah.
If I was, playing with my fingers, all that, because that was part of the character that I was.
Wow.
So that then but I knew that this was all because of it forming,
Yep.
becoming. It was becoming.
Wow.
But it's not me.
Yep.
It's not me. So I just said to him, I need to see the kids. And then he said, do you think that will
Wow.
help? I said, yeah, it will. It will help me,
Wow.
because I know kids
Yeah.
will bring joy.
Yeah.
Kids bring me joy.
Wow.
That's all that jazz, blah, blah, blah. So I just like,
Wow.
okay. Then I came back home. The kids were there, so I was playing with the kids and I was being my bubbly self again and all that jazz, just to remember that, all that is just, action and cut.
Wow. I like what you said. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's obviously it was a learning process lah. It was a learning, but then like we have to remember we're just acting. It's just,
Yeah.
we have to remember that we're professionals here, but of course, because of it involves action, it involves movement, it involves internalization, all that, so it's not like something where you go, like 9 to 5, you're done with that, okay, never mind, shut the door, come back, I'm spending time with it's very different, because it's
Yes.
the physicality of it as well, you see.
It's a character by itself.
But
wow.
You have to address it. You have to acknowledge this is happening. It's forming. It's becoming. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to him, I need to see the kids. He said, why you have to see the kids? I said, because it's been like what, how many days already? At that time I was at 40 plus days already.
Wow.
So I said 40 plus days already, and I think it's becoming. And I'm not saying that I'm becoming Lena. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
It's the down.
There is.
Yeah, I'm not becoming Lena. Down feeling that's it almost feels like it's a little bit trickier for me to detach after cut. And then he said, I see. I said, yeah, but this can be worked out. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to see the kids. I just want to see the kids.
Wow.
So then he was like, okay. So we went back home, and then I looked at my nieces and my nephews all at that time still kecil lagi, So that
Yeah, your resetting moment.
just reset.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. This is awesome because you see, we are all in a drama called life, right? We are all, and there's action and cut every time. And the shorter when there's a problem, the better, right? Just that because no one is looking at us, no one knows what we're going through. The duration between action and cut goes a long time and becomes the character by itself, right? We get into our issues, or the way we are, inclusive or whatever, it'll start showing. So I want to ask you this question, the last question, which is your super weapon. What do you use? What's one talent? Because one of the reason why we're doing this research, basically, we want to bring a flavor of successful people, whatever they're doing, to come up of their own difficulties. There could be some talents that they're using, tools that they're using, a technique that they're using to bounce back and to go and get the fullest of your life. You have your ups and downs when you're down. How do you bounce back? What is your secret weapon? What talent or tool or technique that you use to bounce back, Lisa?
Wow. My for for me, it's as cliche and as simple as it sounds. I wouldn't. It is um, the simplest thing ever. It's really the breathing.
Mm,
I think, oh, okay, everybody says breathing, but we don't realize it. We forget to breathe every day. We have short breaths throughout the day. We don't realize it, you know? And we take for granted the amount of oxygen that enters our body, you know? So sometimes we have to remind ourselves about breathing. And it does a miraculous job when you actually allow yourself to breathe in deep and affirm in your head how the oxygen is going into your brain, into your lungs, into your other organs, right through your extremities, right down the vessels and the veins and all the saraf and all that, biar kecil besar ke apa ke, right down to your toes, And when you're doing that, because ultimately, primarily, even if you have nothing in life, but the fact that you are present, as in like your jasad, you have your jasad, means you're still breathing. The breath, you being able to breathe, that one and only aspect, imagine if nothing else exists. You don't have this, don't have that, don't have this, don't have that, but the fact that you can breathe means you are alive. That means you are living. And we take that for granted sometimes. Every day we don't realize that we're having short breaths. We don't realize it. Even sometimes when people go through the episodes, they forget to breathe. Certain anxiety episodes panic attacks apa ke, is because they don't realize it. With the tense that they go through, they don't breathe. It's not that they want to hold their breath, but they are not really deep breathing. And my method of deep breathing is always when I take a deep breath, and then when I release, I allow for it to go to the back of my throat, and I release very slowly. It's not like a breathe in and then, no. But I breathe out very slowly. I can even hear it in my ear, back to the throat, and then slowly let it release.
Wow, amazing.
But it's important lah. I know people say, oh, breathing, is it? They hear that like macam, they hear like broken record already.
Yeah.
But then the truth is, people forget to breathe.
Yeah.
They always have short breaths. They sometimes, they don't realize how many times in a day they don't breathe. Even in our sleep also, sometimes we don't realize how many times in that sleeping time we're not really, we have like moments that we don't breathe or whatever, all that we don't realize, you see.
Yeah.
But then it's
Wow.
important for us to remind ourselves that if we have nothing in this world, what do we have? The fact that we are breathing, we are alive. So breathe.
Wow. That's amazing, Lisa. Something that has been given to us. We have all the rights to exercise it. It's free. As long as we are not paying for oxygen, it's still free. And it's just amazing advice. Something that you said about breathing is very powerful in the yogic culture. People into yoga and all that. In the mind, a mind is basically it's termed like a monkey that is a drunken monkey which is stung by a scorpion. So it runs everywhere, right? So in order to control the monkey, you also can look at it like a carriage and a horse that is running. Horse is pulling the carriage, and you have the harness that's holding the horse. The only way to control the horse is to pull the harness, and your mind is like that, the horse that is running. So the harness is actually your breath. If you're able to breathe, you're able to control your mind. You can just be relaxed. You'll be able to have it the way you want it to be, and you said it right. And I know that you use it because I'll tell you why. Because you cherished it, you embraced it the way you were communicating just now. It is so powerful. You know, those who are going to listen to this or listening to this now, they are so blessed to be in the space with you, sharing what you're going through, how you have come up. No matter what our life is, I think the most important thing is for us to live our life well, rather than destroying our life with the thoughts and keeping that action to cut for a long period of time. We just have to reset, like how you saw your kids, you saw your nieces and nephews, you breathe, you have your group of friends, your support group, spirituality, and everything that you just said brings us back to being human, right? And puts you in the now. And thank you so much, Lisa. You've been it's a blessing to have you here. We spent almost 2 hours, I guess, having this conversation, and time just flew. And I always, in the past when I have conversation with my friends, some clients, I always tell them, hey, someone should have just recorded this conversation. And when we plant seeds, it happens, right? And I'm having a conversation with a wonderful human being, Lisa Surihani, who's have shared amazing story of them have heard about what you've just said. It is something very deep conversation. Thank you for amazing conversation. How do people find you, Lisa? I know it's easy to find you, but you just Google your name, you appear, right? But how is there a way, yeah, a place where people can actually communicate with you? We would like to include that in the description. How?
Only active social media account that I'm on is Instagram. I mean, Facebook is there.
Okay.
I'm not really active on it, but social media, yes. Just my name, Lisa Surihani. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah, like even Twitter, not so much. I'm actually trying to train myself to be less phoneaholic. I want to be more present.
Mm,
You know.
fantastic. Lovely, Lisa. Thank you so much. Till our path cross someday, we will definitely meet up. We will be having more conversation in the future to go deeper, because after the World Mental Health Day, I'm sure we can meet again to talk about more stuffs and how we can help others through this process. Maybe we can find that auntie who's 99 years old, and pick on her and find out how she's being happy. Thank you so much, Lisa. Please send my regards to your whole family. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
So much. You have a good time. Bye.